welcome and thank you for joining us today for our session focusing on shipping performance and account health. My name is Corey and I'm on the Seller University team. Our presenter today is Jorge. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Jorge, to kick us off. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey, and thank you everyone for joining. Really excited to talk to you all today. This is our second session on this topic. A couple of things I wanted to mention just in advance. Most of the features we'll be going through today are specifically focused for people who are not doing FBA, who are actually, delivering their own products and managing their own logistics. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're just a strictly FBA focused seller. This will give you a lot of context as to what it's like to not sell on FBA. I just wanted to, put that out at first. And so, yeah, like Corey mentioned, I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Amazon, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today about particularly your shipping performance, different KPIs or these metrics that you're measured on to help you keep in a healthy account. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the features that have been around for a little bit that maybe you're not aware of. Some enhancements we've done to those features, but also kind of laying the ground starting from scratch on like what are these certain account health metrics and how do you think about them, and what are good tips and tricks to avoid common pitfalls that we've seen with certain sellers. So let's jump into it. I'm going to switch my video off through the presentation, but I'll jump back in just for Q&A later on. All right. First, I'm going to talk about the customer delivery promise. So I want to kind of, and why that's important, what it is, and ultimately why a lot of these features relate to it. Before I dive into it, I just want to say we're going to go through the slides, and there's going to be kind of walkthrough screen by screen shots of where you're able to navigate and click on. We're going to share those in the chat. So in case you missed it, in case I went through a little bit fast through one or two, you can always check out the PDF afterwards and come back to it and refer to it. So with that said, diving into it, the customer delivery promise. What is exactly the customer delivery promise? Basically, when customers shop on Amazon, they see a date or a date range when they're going to get their product. For example, this customer might be seeing free delivery August 2nd to 4th. That, in essence, is the customer delivery promise. And as you can imagine, a lot of customers really rely on that particular date to decide if at all they want to purchase a product from you. So if a customer delivery promise is a little too far out, maybe they won't purchase it. A good example of that could be, if I have something going on this weekend, I need to make sure the product I'm going to buy arrives by this weekend. It could be Halloween coming up. It could be, just for any other random reason, you just want your product in a reasonable time. Maybe you think 1 week is reasonable. And if the delivery promise is much longer than that, a lot of customers just drop off and don't buy. The other thing about the customer delivery promise, which is going to be really important, is the shorter your customer delivery promise is, the higher likelihood of your product being the featured offer when you're competing against other sellers. So keep that in mind. So how is this customer delivery promise calculated? There's a couple of different aspects to it. The first part is the handling time. That's basically how long it takes you from whenever you receive an order up to when you hand it over to your carriers. So the number of days it takes there. An important note there is weekends by default are switched off. You have a setting called weekend operations. Unless you go in and switch on Saturday, Sunday, or both, weekends are not going to count. So you can imagine if I have 2-day handling time and I receive an order on a Friday, it's going to count. The weekends won't count, and then it'll be Monday, Tuesday. So actually, the expectation will be you ship by that Tuesday. The next part about it is the transit time. So how long it actually takes your carriers, the carriers that you select that are convenient to your business and that can deliver where you want to, how long it takes them to deliver these products. And last but not least, we do add occasional buffers by Amazon to make sure that the customers are protected. And that's basically in the case of, if there's bad weather or if a particular carrier is not performing well, we do add those additional buffers at the end. And so ultimately, what you would ideally want is that the customer delivery promise that you are showing and that you've configured in your settings is as close to the reality as possible. Totally understandable. You might want a little bit of buffer, just to make sure you're protected. And we're going to talk about some of those features that help you get a more accurate delivery promise and at the same time help protect your account health, so you're not, putting yourself in risk. So before I jump into that, one of the things we found is if I compare this customer delivery promise, the estimated delivery promise that sellers have set on average in the US versus the actual delivery promise, we found out that there's a gap in the US at least. It's about 45% of the days. So that's actually quite a lot of a gap. If you think about it this way, just to put an example, there might be sellers who can offer their product to arrive within 5 days, and they're actually showing about 9 or 10 days to customers. And going back on, talking to sellers about this over a lot of different interviews and different forums, I've heard like, hey, well, there's nothing wrong with, overpromise and then, deliver earlier. And that's fair. Like that is true that, it's better to get it right than to be late. But on the other hand, I want you guys to put yourself in that mindset of, well, if you're showing this delivery promise that is exaggeratedly long, you may be missing out on opportunities to sell. You may not be the featured offer, and somebody else may be winning those products. So again, it's all about finding that balance between how accurate you want to be and how, protecting your account at the same time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and what are some of those features that help you do that. As I mentioned, a more accurate delivery promise is typically a shorter delivery promise. It helps you become the featured offer, and that obviously leads to you're going to get more product views, you're going to get higher conversions to sales, and ultimately that means more money for you guys. So more sales for you, and so everyone benefits from this. So let's break into the first half of that, the handling time. What are the features we have available there? First of all, I'll talk about the gap on this side of things. The estimated handling time configured by sellers is actually 53% longer on average in the US than their actual handling time. So what that means is a lot of sellers actually perform way better, and they've set this artificially longer handling time. And there's reasons for that. Sometimes you have specific products, sometimes your operations are running a bad day, sometimes you get a surge of orders. All these things can happen. But instead of bumping up your handling time, we'll specifically focus on the features that can help you mitigate for those, extra things that may happen. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first one is your default handling time. Most accounts are set to 2-day default handling time. Some of your accounts may already be on 1 day. And very soon, we're going to launch same-day handling time. That's coming out, I believe, next month. But one of the common questions we get when we show this is, what's the difference between 1 day and same day? They sound very similar. I'll touch on that in just a second. But ultimately, the most important part about your default handling time is it affects the large majority of your products. So think about this as, on a normal average day, what's a handling time you need for the vast majority of the products that you're handing over, and take those those products and maybe exceptions and put them aside, because we have other features for that. And that other feature is actually called ASIN-specific handling time. So while I may have my default account handling time at 1 day, I can pick a particular product and say, hey, you know what, this product takes me more to package, maybe it's harder to get, maybe I need to engrave somebody's name on it, whatever reason you may have, that product just may take a little longer. You don't want to adjust all of your products for that just because that 1 or 2 or a handful of products take a little longer. So what you ideally want to do is set your handling time to what's reasonable but accurate and fast, and then make your exceptions with your ASIN-specific handling time. And the other feature I want to talk about is order handling capacity. This is a feature, we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth in a while, but basically it sets a limit for how many orders you can take in a day. Once you pass that limit, you get an extra day of handling time without it, hitting your account health. So we'll show you guys how to switch these features on in just a second. But again, we do encourage you to think of your default handling time, and really on a normal day for most of your products, what is the most accurate and fastest that you can provide there, while mitigating with these other features for other reasons that may delay your handling time. So going back on those in order, same day versus 1 day, what's the difference here? Let me start with same day. Same day handling time will look at your cutoff at your cutoff time set on your account. So what does that mean? Basically, the default cutoff time for receiving orders is 2 p.m. and you can edit that if you want to change it to 3 p.m., 4 p.m. You can make it earlier, whatever you want to change it to, but by default it's going to be 2 p.m. So let's take 2 p.m. for this example. If I receive an order at 10 in the morning, I'm going to be expected to ship it within the same day I received it. Why? Because it was before my cutoff time. But if I receive it at 4 p.m., which is 2 hours after my cutoff time, I have the next day to do it. So basically, it's just allowing you to say, at least for those orders that were received early, you're actually showing your delivery promise a whole day earlier to customers. And you might say, hey, well, it's just 1 day. How much of a difference does that make? But actually on weekends, particularly, that can be a big deal. Let me give a time back to this example. If I receive an order on Friday at 10 in the morning, and I can hand it over to my carrier that same day, the delivery promise is going to calculate to my customers that I'm shipping it today. But if I don't if I have it on 1 day handling time or even 2 day handling time, it's going to say, okay, well, Friday doesn't count, weekends don't count. If it's 1 day, it'll be Monday. If it's 2 days, it's going to be Tuesday. So even though I could have handed it off or maybe even did to carriers on Friday, the delivery promise shown to customers when they're just navigating before making a purchase decision is going to say 2 extra days or 2 days plus the weekend, so even up to 3 or 4 days. So just for you guys to bear in mind how one single day can actually make a huge difference for the customer delivery promise. Now, on the other hand, 1 day, if I receive the order on Friday at 10 a.m. or at 11 p.m., it doesn't matter. It's just going to consider the next business day, so that would be Monday. So again, when same day handling time comes out, it's important for you guys to consider that. And also remember, your default cutoff time can be edited to whatever accommodates your business best. So the other feature is the order handling capacity. Let me show you an example. It's just way easier to understand this one with this example. But basically, you set a limit for how many orders you can manage with your default handling time. And every order that is received above that limit gets 1 extra day. So let's take this example. Let's say I say my default handling time is 1 day and my order handling capacity is 80 orders. Whether your business, maybe that's reasonable, maybe 80 is too little, maybe you could do 800 a day. It really depends on your business, but ultimately you're allowed to set a number here for your order handling capacity. In this example, I picked 80. So the first 80 orders I receive in a day, it will follow my default handling time, which is 1 day. But for the remaining orders after 80, maybe I'm swamped, maybe it's getting late, maybe you have people rushing, you're protected here because you're going to get an extra day to handle those orders. And so you don't have to worry about, like rushing those out the door just because they came in that specific day. And it's also important, those, obviously the next day you'll have to manage those. So those will count towards your next day limit. So again, here it's important that you set something that's actually reasonable and maybe like a little bit of a stretch for your business, just to really make sure you're not, if you're daily managing 100 orders, you don't really want to set that capacity at 100. It seems like you could probably manage that. Maybe you want to set it to 120, really finding where your limit is. So how do you switch that feature on? On Seller Central, within your shipping settings, there's a tab called General Shipping Settings. And again, we'll share the PDF with you with all these screenshots in case you want to refer to them later. Once you're on your general shipping settings, there's a section called handling time where you can edit both of these features that I just mentioned. Click edit, and up top, you're able to switch to 1 day handling time, and very soon we'll launch same day handling time as well. And also you can input a number here just for your order handling capacity. So you could just type, if your capacity is 500 a day, you could just pop in 500 and hit save, and that will automatically be set up. And then the third one I talked about is ASIN-specific handling time. That is actually set up in a different place. So basically, you would have to go to your inventory and then manage inventory. Once you're there, you're going to see all of the list of the products that you sell. And what you want to do is you want to click one, select that arrow, and then click edit. Once you do that, there's a tab that says offer. And you can scroll down to a section that says handling time. So let's say I put 5 days for this product. What it'll do is all the other products that don't have an ASIN-specific handling time, it will just take my default handling time. But for this product, because I said it's 5 days, it will override my default handling time, and I will have 5 days for this particular product, or whatever you guys want to set here. The important part about this is you can do this manually one by one, like I just showed you, going to my inventory and then clicking edit. Or you can do this in bulk if you download an Excel, which is on your inventory loader tool. You can search that in the help pages. And basically what that does is it downloads a list of all of your inventory. On that report, there's a column that says handling time. And there, if it's easier for you or you have many you want to go through, you can just put whatever number you want and then re-upload the file. And that will automatically assign the ASIN-specific handling time. One thing to bear in mind, if you assign ASIN-specific handling time to all of your products, for all of them, it will override your default handling time. So just if you want to be cautious of that. All right, so those are all the features about handling time. And now I'm going to transition into the second half of the equation. What about the transit time, the carriers? How do we get the promise for them better and more accurate? So there's this feature we launched last year called Shipping Settings Automation, known as SSA. Basically, this is a feature that will help you automate the decision for how long it takes carriers to deliver packages. If you go without shipping settings automation, let's say you just enter your shipping templates, you're going to manually have to estimate how long in number of days it takes you to deliver products from your warehouse to many different places. And that's not that easy, and it's not easy to get it accurate for a couple of reasons. For starters, maybe you have many warehouses that are across the country. Secondly, you don't know exactly where your customer is located, so you kind of sometimes have to overguess in case they're further out. That's another thing. And last but not least, we don't expect you guys to have live data from every single carrier to know if they're doing good or not. So for all of those reasons, what we see a common practice is when sellers set their transit time manually, they overestimate just to not get it wrong. What shipping settings automation does is it helps you do this automatically, and it helps it become more accurate while still keeping some buffers. First of all, it takes into consideration 3 different things to make a more accurate delivery promise. The first thing it's going to consider is where are your warehouse or warehouses located? So it's going to know the exact zip code of where they are. The second thing is it's going to know exactly where the customer who's ordering is located. So for example, if I have a warehouse in California and a customer is ordering in Arizona, he's going to see a way shorter delivery promise than if he's ordering from New York. And so that, that way I can provide a very specific and very accurate delivery promise based off of their exact zip code. The last part, and I think this is really, really an important part to consider, shipping settings automation considers up-to-date data for carriers and the specific carriers that you use. So what I mean by that, it's not switching on SSA is not going to ask you to go faster. It's not going to ask you to use new shipping methods that you're not familiar with. It's gonna you're going to choose which ones you currently use, and of the list that you enable, it's going to choose the shortest one that gives you the most conservative one. So basically, you're in control of what ship methods you want, and shipping settings automation is just going to give a more realistic expectation based off of what are the carriers that you currently use. So again, you get to decide. It will not force you to go faster and spend more on, premium shipping and faster shipping and all of that. It will just show a delivery promise that's more accurate, and that is typically shorter. So we've actually seen a lot of sellers switch this on for a while, and we've seen an uplift of sales of up to 12% just because of this. And again, they didn't have to go faster. They just were showing customers a more accurate delivery promise by switching on a single switch, and up to 12% more sales on average. So that's definitely one of the reasons why we encourage sellers to do this. But let me walk you through how to switch SSA on. It's pretty simple. On Seller Central, on the right-hand menu, there's this clog that you can click and go down to your shipping settings. Once you're there, you're going to have 2 options. You can enable shipping settings automation on an existing template by hitting Edit Template, or you can enable it on a totally new template by creating a new shipping template. Just bear in mind, if you edit a template, you will already have all of your ASINs assigned to it. If you create a new shipping template with SSA, you then need to assign those products to it. So once you do that, whether it's edit or create a new shipping template, you're going to see this button that says shipping settings automation. And as soon as you click that toggle, it's going to ask you for a couple of things, those things that we just walked through. It's going to say, hey, what warehouses that you've enabled do you want to switch on this template? And you can say, I want to switch on 1, maybe my product is in 5. You can switch on however many you have registered, and that way it'll consider the closest one to the customer. So that's another important thing about how shipping settings automation works. It's going to look at where the customer is and pick the best warehouse to deliver where you have your product. The next thing, as I pointed out, it's going to say what carriers and what specific ship methods do you use? Do you use USPS Priority Mail? Do you use UPS Ground? Do you use UPS Superpost or FedEx? Whatever ones you currently use will be listed there. We're working on it, constantly adding more carriers linked to that, but basically you get to select whichever ones you cover. All right, so that wraps it up with shipping settings automation. Before I go on to the next section, with shipping settings automation, I always recommend this to sellers. It's not a decision of like, do you want to go all in with your business to SSA or not? We encourage you guys to make a template. Try shipping settings automation, maybe put in 10, 100, depending on how big your business is and how many products you have, but some of your ASINs on there, and see how it's improving your business. And then, of course, if it works for you, you can obviously throw in more products onto that shipping template. And if it doesn't work for you, you can always switch it off. It's just one click away. So again, we encourage you guys to kind of go in this experiment mindset. It's a very easy thing to test and switch on, and kind of improving your delivery promise with it. All right, now I'm going to focus a little bit more on some tips for account health. The first one is how to avoid late shipments. The first thing I want to talk about is what this metric calculates, this late shipment rate. Late shipment rate is calculating what percentage of the packages that you were sending out were not handed off on time. Important thing to consider is the last 10 days do not count. So they will eventually count, but upfront on the KPI, on this metric that you're going to be seeing on your account health dashboard, those are not counting yet. What we are counting is the next 10 days or the next 30 days to calculate your metric. So why is that important? Let's say you're having a bit of an account health issue, you're late, you've had some late deliveries or handing the package late, and you say, I'm going to change my business and I want to see the results immediately. They won't reflect immediately. It's going to take up to 10 days. So with that said, I'm going to run through some scenarios and 3 important dates for you to consider. Some scenarios that are obviously not late shipments and some that are, which are sometimes not the most obvious. So these 3 scenarios, there's 3 dates that are really relevant. The first one is the ship by date. By when did you have to ship this product? The next one is the ship on date. When did you actually ship the product? And the last one, which is often not the most obvious, is when did you confirm your shipment of this product? And when I say confirm shipment, basically after you ship out the product, on Seller Central, there's a button that says confirm shipment, and it'll ask you, what's your tracking ID, and input a little bit more information. But basically, you are confirming to the customer that you have shipped this product. And on the other hand, you're also getting paid as soon as you confirm this product has been shipped. So again, running through these scenarios, let's say in all of them, you had to ship by the 7th of September. If you ship early on the 6th and confirm early, you're absolutely good. If you actually do it all on the same day, that works too. If you do, let's say a day or 2 days earlier, you ship it out, and the next day you confirm it, that works as long as you're confirming at least by the date that it was supposed to ship by. So let's walk through scenarios where you could possibly get your account health into a little trouble. The first one, you're supposed to ship by the 7th, you actually do that, but you come in the next day and you confirm the shipment. It's going to be a late, it's going to be considered late because it was confirmed. This is the date that's considered for when you're actually shipping. So it's going to be late here. So always make sure that as soon as you're handling packages over, that same day, you're actually confirming those orders. The next one, there's really not much to do here. If you actually ship it late, well, it's going to be considered a late shipment even after you confirm. And the last one is, even if you ship on time, if you forget to confirm, you're also going to be considered a late shipment, and this can affect your account health. So again, there's some room for manual mistakes here if you don't confirm on time. And I'm going to talk in a second about a feature called Buy Shipping, which automatically confirms orders for you, so you don't have to do this anymore. So in this scenario, 3 out of 6 were late, so obviously it had a LSR of 50%. So some tips, some of them are going to be very obvious, but confirm your orders as soon as you hand the packages over to the carrier. That's the ideal experience. If you can't do it immediately, at least do it by the end of the day. Make sure you definitely do it before the day it was supposed to ship by. The second one is you can always monitor your late shipment rate on your account health dashboard. I'll show you a GIF in a second where you can see how to access that. The third one, this is what I was talking about. You can use Buy Shipping, and that will automatically confirm your orders. What is Buy Shipping? Buy Shipping or Buy Shipping Services is basically a tool on Seller Central, and it's also available on shipping integrators, on certain shipping integrators if you're using those softwares, or on APIs if your business is tech savvy and you've plugged into them. Long story short, you can use Buy Shipping on Seller Central or outside of it, and it helps you purchase labels for delivering your products. Not only does it help you purchase labels, and that's what the feature does, it helps you get pre-negotiated Amazon rates. It also helps you get what we recently launched called Amazon sponsored discounts, which are discounts on particular carriers and ship methods that are reliably fast. So again, another good reason to go check out those rates. And then the third part of it is, so you purchase your labels, it will automatically add tracking. You don't have to do that manually. It will automatically confirm shipment of that order. So again, you remove all of those, all of that room for manual mistakes that can happen. The next one is, I talked about it earlier, avoid getting overloads with orders by setting an order handling capacity. Sometimes what we've heard is sellers tell us, I could manage 200 orders a day, suddenly got 250, and that's why I shipped them out late because it was just too much. Make sure you set your order handling capacity. That'll help you protect from that. Whether it's, suddenly your brand became popular and everyone ordered it, or maybe it's something expected, Black Friday's coming up, and or any other holiday where sales are going to peak. You might want to set that in advance. And the last one, set ASIN-specific handling time for those products that are a little bit trickier. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So this is how you get to your account health dashboard. You go on the left-hand menu, performance, and then account health. On this dashboard, on the right-hand side, you'll see your late shipment rate, your pre-fulfillment cancellation rate, and I believe there's one more KPI, which is your valid tracking rate. So those are the ones we're going to talk about today. So those are the ones you should be monitoring. All right, which is a good transition to talk about tracking. This metric, what does VTR, valid tracking rate, calculate? Well, first of all, it calculates what percentage of your orders that were shipped to customers have a valid tracking ID. And the key word here is valid. It's not just about having a tracking ID, it has to be a valid one. I'll talk to you about what that means and some common pitfalls in a sec. But before I do that, I want to run by two scenarios. You receive an order, you have two options. I talked about using by shipping. If you use by shipping, you'll automatically have valid tracking. You do not have to worry about this anymore. If you don't, let's say you purchase your tracking externally, you purchase your label on your own account externally, maybe you go to the UPS store, whatever it is, you end up purchasing your shipping. Now you need to come back and confirm the shipment. How do you do that? You click that confirm shipment button. You need to manually input the tracking info. Make sure you don't, accidentally copy paste the wrong thing, miss a letter. That's a very common issue. And then it's going to check if it's a valid tracking ID. And obviously, if it is, you're good. But if it's not, then it'll affect your VTR score. And I'll talk about what are some of the key reasons for that in a second. But it's important to note, there is mandatory usage of valid tracking IDs for all shipments from China out to the rest of the world and for all US domestic shipments. And so why is tracking important overall? We found that 1 out of 3 contacts, whether it's calling Amazon or it's calling your business, are actually asking, where's my stuff? And that's a pretty easy question to answer if there's valid tracking for a lot of people. And not only, I want to talk about like reducing those contacts. That's definitely important so that your the team attending contacts is not spending a lot of time on that. What we have found is shipments with tracking receive 29% of fewer contacts. But the other part I think is even more important. When there's no tracking, a lot of times customers will recur to give you bad ratings. They will recur to posting negatively about you. They may even create claims. And so what we found is that when you put tracking, it reduces all of that by 42%. And then from an account health perspective, you need a valid tracking rate of above 95% in a particular category. Otherwise, you may be restricted from selling in that category. If you are ever restricted, you will still be able to sell with FBA fulfilled by Amazon, but you will be restricted from fulfilling your own orders in that particular category of products. And if you want to do premium shipping, if this is something you're interested, premium shipping is a promise that you'll deliver the product within 1 or 2 days. It's like the golden standard for delivery. You're going to need a VTR of above 99%. So some of the reasons this happens and some tips to share with you guys. Obviously, confirm and update the tracking ID before the carrier delivers the package. Kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but we've seen a lot of issues actually where 36% of the issues actually where sellers will call in and say, hey, I put tracking ID, it was a valid one, it was from the carrier, why did I get it wrong? And it turns out 36% of the times, once we investigate, it turns out the tracking was added after the package was actually delivered. So if you're a customer, obviously that's not very useful, right? If my package arrives today, I get the tracking ID tomorrow. It wasn't really helpful. So again, it's probably a lot of you will say, oh, that's not me, but there's a lot of people out there who have affected their business in that way. The next thing is, when you're confirming your order, if you decide not to use by shipping and you want to do this manually, there's a drop-down menu, and make sure you're choosing a carrier that's integrated with Amazon. The third one, like I said, the easy way out with this is just use by shipping. It will automatically confirm tracking. It will automatically ensure it's a valid tracking ID. You do not need to worry about this anymore. Plus, you get all the extra benefits and rates that I talked about earlier. The fourth one, if you do this manually, this is one of the most common mistakes. Verify that the carrier name the shipping service, and the tracking ID all belong to the same carrier. It's really easy to grab a UPS tracking ID and then on the drop-down menu, accidentally, UPS and USPS are pretty close to each other, hit the wrong one. That will be considered an invalid tracking ID because it doesn't belong to the same carrier. So again, without by shipping, there's room for that manual mistake. And last but not least, Amazon doesn't recognize Chinese characters. So if you are shipping from China out, make sure you're choosing a carrier from the drop-down menu instead of just typing it in Chinese characters. It will not be considered valid tracking ID. All right, so let's pivot to securing on-time delivery. Again, I'll keep emphasizing by shipping, but what this metric calculates is what percentage of the products actually arrive to the customers on time. So what I think is pretty cool again about by shipping, if you decide to use by shipping, as long as you ship on time, even if the order is delivered late because the carrier messed up, your on-time delivery rate is going to be protected. So it's a really good incentive to protect your account health to use by shipping. If you decide to purchase the label externally, even if you ship on time, if it's delivered late, your on-time delivery rate is going to drop. So again, by shipping will help protect your account health on top of giving you good rates and making it easy to purchase labels. It's important to have a healthy on-time delivery score for a couple of reasons. First of all, it affects your eligibility to offer premium shipping. If that's something you want to do, you need to keep it above 97%. But like I said, it will lead to negative feedback. It will lead to claims. It could impact the status of your account. And so that's, and again, that can relate back to Amazon adding additional buffers to your account if you're consistently not delivering on time. So some tips for this. Again, we recommend setting up SSA, shipping settings automation. It will create an automated delivery promise, so you do not have to do this manually. Second, use by shipping. Can't emphasize that enough. Third, there's instances where you took too long handling a product. You're going to get hit on your rate to get it out of the on time, but you still want to protect your on-time delivery. So consider using a faster ship method to kind of catch up for it and not have a late delivery. And the last one, make sure you use an Amazon integrated carrier and confirm the order before the delivery. All right, let's pivot to pre-fulfillment cancellation rate. There's actually been a new release in the last few weeks on this. A lot of curiosity and a lot of conversation going on around this. Basically, what this metric calculates is what percentage of the orders received in the last 7 days were canceled by the seller. So that's really important. The ones that are canceled by the customer, where there's a proper cancellation request, those will not affect your cancellation rate. It's only the ones canceled by the seller. Common reasons this happens. I'll list a few. Accidental price changes. It may sound like, oh, that doesn't happen very often, but we have seen it in the past where someone accidentally puts the wrong price. Suddenly they get a world of orders, and obviously they don't want to fulfill them at that price, and they end up canceling. So that's one thing that could happen. Second one, an unexpected sales peak that is just more orders than you can manage, and ultimately you end up canceling some just because you can't deliver them on time. The third one, this is actually where really these are the more common ones. You forget to update your available inventory. It's commonly known as a stock out, where if you don't update your inventory, customers will still be able to purchase your orders, your product, and therefore you just don't have any physical inventory. There's no way to get around that. You end up canceling. And the last one, sellers go on vacation. I know Juneteenth is coming up, I believe tomorrow. Some sellers want to go out on vacation, and many other days. There's certain days that are pre-configured vacations that will not count as active days, but there's other days that are not, and you really want to make sure that if you're going out on vacation, maybe it's your birthday, there's a very easy way to switch your products onto vacation mode, and basically you just temporarily delist them with a single click, and when you're back from your vacation, you can switch that back on, and now customers will be able to see your product. It's very easy to do, but it's really important because if you don't, you're going to receive orders on those days, and you're going to be expected to deliver them and fulfill them. It's important to keep a cancellation rate that's healthy. If it's above 2.5%, you may lose your eligibility to do seller fulfilled sales. You can still do fulfilled by Amazon. And if it's above 0.5, you may lose your eligibility to do premium shipping options. So some important things about tips to kind of make sure you're on top of your cancellation rate. You want to update your inventory regularly to avoid stockouts. That's one. You can do this as well with APIs. You want to double check your price changes naturally just before you upload those and put those out in production, make it live. You want to avoid getting overloaded. Going back on that earlier feature, set your order handling capacity to a limit where you can manage. And another one, I think this is really important. Sometimes you just need to cancel, and that's fair. But if you do communicate communicate early to customers, a lot of sellers don't do this, and that leads to a way more negative experience for customers. Why? Because a lot of customers, if you tell them, hey, I need to cancel your order for this or that reason early enough, they'll be like, okay, we understand. But if you suddenly cancel on them last minute when they were expecting to get it, this can also really affect their, it can go further. It can give you negative reviews. They can go on and, post things about your product and so forth. So this will affect your cancellation rate if you do need to cancel, but at least it'll protect you from other things. The next one I mentioned earlier, if you're on vacation, set up your account on vacation mode. And the last one, I want to spend a little bit more time on this one. If a customer requests a cancellation, ensure they're correctly sending a cancellation request. And this is really, really important because a lot of times in the buyer-seller messages, a customer will reach out and say, hey, can you please cancel my order? They'll just type it and they'll explain why or whatnot. If you cancel that order, it will affect your cancellation rate. Why? Because this customer did not formally submit a cancellation. So you should always, if that happens, tell them, hey, I'm happy to cancel your order, but please submit a cancellation request by going to my orders page and then submitting cancel. Once they do that, if you receive a cancellation request, you can cancel it and you can be 100% certain that you're not going to affect your CR rate. And so what is new about this experience? In the past, up to a week ago, these cancellation requests would come to you in your buyer-seller messages. So it sometimes was a bit confusing to distinguish what was a customer just reaching out and typing, hey, please cancel, versus a cancellation request that was formally and done correctly. So for those reasons, we took a lot of feedback from sellers and said, how do we redesign this experience to make it a little bit easier? So the cancellation requests are no longer in the buyer-seller messages. They are now within your My Orders page. And you'll be able to see which orders have a buyer cancellation. We launched this feature, I want to say a week ago, and we took a ton of feedback from sellers saying, this helps in a lot of ways to move it, but there was some downsides to it. One of those was we're sending automated emails to you saying, an order's been canceled, and we had not yet put a hyperlink to the order. So we've just recently added that. I believe that's going to be launched either today or tomorrow, if not very soon. So once you receive that email, it will directly take you to your order specifically to cancel it. The second thing of important feedback that we received was, one, you're on your My Orders page. Can you add a filter where we can filter orders with buyer requested cancellation? We've recently added that, and again, it's going to be released in the next few days. And so now you'll be able to quickly filter that and find it out. And the last thing that was provided to us as an important piece of feedback was adding a banner. If you're on an order detail page about to fulfill it, can you put a banner saying, hey, this order has a cancellation request, watch out, don't fulfill it or cancel it or do the appropriate next step. And so we're also adding that in. I just want to highlight that those are all feedback that we received very recently, feedback shared on the seller forums, and feedback shared over interviews. We really appreciate that kind of feedback. And of course, as well during webinars, if there's ideas that you have and you want to share with us, we'll circulate it all back to our product managers and they can help improve this experience because ultimately it's designed to be a better experience for you as sellers. All right, I talked a lot about by shipping. Let me just recap some of the highlights. First of all, it allows you to ship or automatically confirm orders. That's also really important because it tracks your shipment and it complies with VTR. And going back on the earlier point, I didn't mention this earlier, but when you use it by shipping, you can purchase labels individually, one by one, or you can purchase them in bulk. I'll walk you through that in just a sec. The third thing is it ensures delivery with a trusted network of carriers. And also you get access to those pre-negotiated rates. If your business, let's say you have an account with UPS or FedEx that you have way better rates for because you're a really, really large business, you can still use by shipping and get all of the benefits, but you can link your own UPS or FedEx account to Seller Central and use your own rates if that's something that benefits you. If you don't have better rates than the ones you're seeing on Amazon, please feel free to just disconnect your account from UPS or FedEx or whatever account you have linked there, and now you're going to see Amazon rates again. And important note there, you're going to see that Amazon sponsored discount I mentioned earlier. That Amazon sponsored discount goes as deep as about $5 on certain shipping labels, so it's really worth considering. Obviously, sometimes it's a little lower, but it is definitely a pretty good discount to get. And the last one is it protects your on-time delivery rate from late carrier deliveries as long as you ship on time. So just to wrap up, to get to this, once you're on your manage your order page, there's this button on the right side which is buy shipping. You can click on that for individual orders. Or if you select multiple ones, I did a bit of a zoom in there, you can click the box for many of these, and then up top you're going to see a button that says buy shipping, and you can purchase labels up to 100 at a time. Once you do that, it's going to ask you for a couple of things. What are your product dimensions? What are the carriers and ship methods you want to use? It's going to rank the top 3 based off of the combination of like what's the best price and delivery date. And then of course you can see all options, and you'll get a longer list of a lot more options. Important to know, all of the options you see there are pre-filtered to be options that will deliver by the deliver by date. So you can ensure that if you select one of those options, it will make it on time. Last but not least, you can click buy shipping, and it will bring up this pop-up where you can print out your shipping labels, and you're ready to go. You can print out those shipping labels. One thing noted yesterday in the webinar, somebody highlighted on bulk buy shipping, there's some restrictions to like the type of format you can print out PDFs in certain forms and sizes. We're enhancing that in a couple of weeks, so hopefully that will be a new release as well to improve bulk buy shipping, so that you can also do this on a Mac, but also you're able to print out in a lot more types of formats and sizes for your bulk buy shipping. But for single order buy shipping, you can do it with all the sizes available.
Special thanks to Jorge for presenting and facilitating this Q&A. So thanks everyone, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you everyone. Bye.